If you could start with an opening statement.
An exciting day. Looking forward to getting on the field and competing. Guys have been working very hard. Guys look like they're in really good shape right now. We've been getting after it pretty hard over the last couple of weeks and off to a great start, but now we actually get to play against each other a little bit. Try to see who's going to separate who on the mound, who's going to separate who in the playing field, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So excited about getting cranked up here in a little while.
Do you have a three for Friday, Saturday, Sunday kind of in your mind, or are you just going to let this all play out?
I'll be quite honest with you. I'm going to let it all play out. I really am. In my mind, I have about 8 guys that I feel like are in contention based on what they did in the fall to start. Our biggest thing is trying to figure out who's going to be 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we've set it up right now with our inner squads where we're going to play on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, and Tuesdays. That way we can start guys on those 4 days out of our 6 days that we can practice a week. Let those 2 guys go head-to-head each day and see what happens. We have in our mind who we feel like are the 3 to 4 guys that have a chance to pitch on Friday and Saturday. And for right now, those guys are pitching on Friday and Saturday. That way, if we feel like the guy that's throwing on the Saturday inner squads has a chance to bump up to Friday based on how he pitches, then we can do that a lot easier than if that pitcher is pitching on Sundays in inner squads. So there's been a lot of thought that's went into it. Andrew C. obviously has done an outstanding job with our pitching staff and getting them ready for this day and for this weekend. And our pitching has looked outstanding in our live bullpen sessions. Our hitters already have 18 live at-bats. So I don't know if we could be more prepared to start team practice than we are right now.
The 56 games are so important, but a lot of times when pitching starts to separate is when you get into an ACC tournament or a regional and you maybe have to have a guy go in game 4 or 5. Do you feel like you're going to have depth now this year to do that?
Well, I've never heard a head coach say he has too much pitching, right? And we're always making sure that we always want to have depth and have quality depth and have stuff. In the early goings, and again, we're talking 4 live pen sessions where our pitchers have thrown 30 to 40 live pitches versus hitters, and our hitters have had live at bats. I've gotten a chance to see everybody and kind of see where they're at, but there's some quality stuff out of this pitching staff. You look at today, we have Sam Weatherly, who I think is probably our most improved pitcher from one year to the next. He's throwing a ton of strikes. He's a bulldog competitor. He's a tough kid. He's got an electric arm, left-handed. He's going against Matt Clark, and we all know Matt Clark, just a true pitchability lefty that's won a lot of games for us here. We've got guys like Davis Sharp. Carter Raffield is coming back off surgery. Carter has been dominant. I mean, we don't stand a chance against Carter in live pens. He has just absolutely chewed our hitters up. Spencer Strider's in good shape and looks ready to go. Obviously, those 2 guys we're going to have to be very, very careful with, simply because they're coming off of Tommy John surgery. One's going to be at about 14 months, I believe, with Carter. Spencer's going to be at just over a year by the time the season starts. So we're going to have to limit their pitch count. We're going to have to be very disciplined in how we use them. When it's time to take them out, we have to take them out. So they're going to be a little bit limited once the season starts. Keyshawn Askew looks better right now than I've seen him. His stuff has really made a jump. He's got 3 pitches that he's throwing in the strike zone. He's been awfully good too, so he'll pitch against Davis on Saturday. So those 6 guys are starting on the weekends right now. And then in the midweek games, we have Nick Clayton, who made a really big jump in the fall, was up to 93, 94. At the end of the fall in the Purple Orange World Series, and another true freshman, Mac Anglin, who's 94, 95 with a power slider. Raffield's been 94, 95. Spencer's been 93, 94. Just look at those 4 arms alone, and that's not including any of the bullpen guys at all. That's just the 8 starters. We've got some guys that have some velocity, have some stuff. We also have some different looks, between those 3 lefties with Clark and Askew and Weatherly, and then, all those righties with Raffield. It's got a power sinker, breaking ball. Strider's got the 4-seam fastball. He throws at the top of the zone. Anglin's got a really good slider. So they all just have a lot of different looks, but they have really good stuff. And it's going to be interesting to see who separates from who over the course of the next 3 weeks before we start playing somebody else.
After the way the season ended last year, how has the mood of the team been? How motivated they've been since the way it ended the way it did for them?
It's been a very motivated group. It was a very humbling experience for all of us. You know, again, this game will teach you an awful lot if you allow it to. And last year was it was tough. It was a tough second half of the year, and it was a tough summer for all of us. I mean, a lot of reflecting, looking at what can I do a better job of as a head coach. What do we need to change? What are some things that we need to try to do a better job of, do differently? And I felt like we had a really productive fall. The fall was all focused on development, just trying to develop the individual. Obviously, we threw a lot of team concepts at these guys, but it's about developing the individual and trying to find a strength in each individual, trying to build our team culture more, spending a lot more time on team culture, and that has went significantly well. This is a very selfless group, and it's a very unproven group, especially on the position player side. We've got some young guys. We've only got 2 guys that have played 1 full season as a starter in Sam Hall and Bryce Teodosio. Besides that, Hawkins played a good bit for us last year as a true freshman. Davis Sharp did both and did both at a high level last year. But we've got a lot of unproven guys in terms of experience. So being able to pass the baton, that's a big term we've been using here lately. It's 9 guys in that lineup, and we're going to have to put together 9 quality at-bats and find ways to get on base and just pass the baton on to the next guy. We don't have that proven 3, 4, 5 right now, but we've also had some teams in the past that hit a whole bunch of home runs, and 3, 4, 5 were pretty dang good. And then, we weren't quite as good as we wanted to be 6 through 9. I think we got a better chance to spread our lineup out and put together quality at-bats where we have the same amount of power. I don't think so, but I didn't think we were going to, finish 11th in the country last year in home runs. So that's yet to be determined. We spent a lot more time on the short game. We spent a lot of time on situational hitting, the hit and run, advancing runners, safety squeeze, just being able to execute. We want to try to create an offense that can score runs when it's not conducive to scoring runs. When we play in a big ballpark, Doug Kingsmore plays big early in the season. When the wind's blowing in, how are we going to score runs on those days? We got to be able to manufacture runs and do the little things and do a better job of that. And I think we have the personnel that can do that. We've got a lot of team speed. We've got some guys that can run. Jared Broughton, our new assistant coach, he's a base running guru. So he spent a lot of time with our guys trying to develop that aspect of the game more. But we stole over 80 bags last year. There hadn't been a team since 2010 at Clemson that hit 80 and stole 80, and we did a pretty good job on those ends, but struck out too much. Didn't do a good enough job with runner at third, less than 2 outs. We got to be able to get those runners in when we get them over there. We got to fight harder with 2 strikes, put together better at bats. And I think our guys are just understanding the importance of the team at bat and the quality at bat. So that's been a big focus for us, but it's been a lot of fun just because we do have a lot of young guys, a lot of unproven guys who are ready to prove themselves. So they've been very coachable, they're very hungry, they're very eager, and they're ready to get started.
How about, speaking of that, getting speed on the base pads, Kier, what he can bring to this team and how much of a difference maker he can be now that he's healthy?
He's certainly a difference maker. I mean, Kier's an above-average runner, and he's got great instincts on the bases. He looks really good right now. We've got to manage his workload. Again, we're keeping our fingers crossed that we can keep him healthy, and so far he looks really good in the early going so far. So, a big part of what we've got to do with him is we just got to make sure that on the days we're not playing that we take care of him and that we monitor his workload a lot, because he's been putting a lot of effort into his practices. He's trying to get game ready, and he's running 100% right now, and he looks really good doing it. So big key for us is just being able to communicate with him and manage his workload to keep him on his feet where he can play for us.
With Carter, what is it that makes him so dominant on the mound?
Well, he's about 6'5", I think. He's 94, 95 with power sink. I mean, it is a heavy, heavy fastball. He has command of a curveball. He throws both. He throws a curveball and a slider. I think he's throwing more of a curveball right now, and he's got a split and a changeup. and they're all above average pitches. It's just, if you ask our hitters right now, like, who's the hardest guy to hit? Like, and that's what I ask them. That's all I really care about. Like, hey, what do you got? You know, what do you see? And, you know, what does it look like? They're like, man, right field. Like, I can't hit right field. I mean, our guys are like, that stuff is dominant. It's moving all over the place. So it's just a very uncomfortable at bat with Carter. And Carter and Spencer, and those two guys coming off of Tommy John surgery, you know, a lot of times when you're on a rehab, you're kind of by yourself to a degree. You have to be really disciplined. Those guys are coming out and doing their throwing program a lot of times before we stretch as a team, and then they're going to the weight room together. And I'm just really proud of those two guys, just how hard they worked at being disciplined, being consistent with their throwing program, and getting to the point that they're at right now. But we also have to understand, too, that we've got to be patient with those guys. Now, they haven't faced a hitter. Well, Carter didn't face but a handful of hitters his senior year of high school. So he's been dealing with this for quite some time. It's been since 2018 since Spencer has pitched in a competitive ball game. So we've got to understand that early on, we got to be patient. We got to give them the ball, let them go out there and do their thing. And as they get more acclimated and comfortable, they'll get better and better and better. But both so far have looked very good.
Monty, when you got here, you had Seth Beer and Pat Krall, and you had Logan Davidson, Chris Williams, guys who could be stars, faces of the program. Do you have any of that this year? Do you need?
Good question. Yeah, I don't know. That's yet to be determined. I mean, I think we have some young guys in the program that have the potential to have that type of star power, but they haven't done it yet. You know, we don't have. This is our first year where we don't have that guy coming back, right? You know, we had Logan coming back off of a monster sophomore year, and then he goes in the first round. Seth was Seth. You know, he's one of the best. You don't get Seth Beers, but like, you know, once every decade, right? I mean, you just don't get that kind of player very often. We lost a lot of our veteran players who had potential star power last year who had done it. But from what I've seen, there's a lot of guys here that I really like. They just haven't done it yet. I would say that, you know, for me to put some of our guys in that category, well, those guys earned those stripes with what they did on the field. We didn't know what Seth Beer was going to be when he got here. We thought he was going to be pretty good. We didn't know he was going to win the National Player of the Year as a freshman. I don't think anybody could have seen that coming. You know, Logan Davidson, as a true freshman, to play every day as a shortstop and wind up being an All-American and do what he did in his career, I don't think we could have seen that at the time. We thought they were really good, but, you know, you got to earn that right to be called a star based on what you do on the field of play. And, you know, obviously, a lot of those guys are not in the program now. So we've got some young guys that haven't necessarily played to that level. But, you know, we'll see where we're at a month into season, halfway point into season, with some of the guys that we're going to run out there and play.
Given the amount of question marks on offense, do you see yourself maybe tinkering with the lineup going into the season just to try things out to see who actually fits where? Yeah,
I mean, I think so. I mean, I think we have some versatility with some guys that can play multiple positions. We have 4 or 5 left-handed hitters, so I think we can play the matchup a little bit there. So, yeah, I do think that you're going to see, you know, I don't know, you know, there could be 11, 12, maybe 13 guys that we try to move in and out of there and see what they can do. But, again, that's yet to be determined. I've seen guys hit 380, 400 in the fall and hit $150 when they come back. So you don't know. I mean, you have to continue to evaluate your team until opening weekend gets here and then make the best decision you can based on what you see as a head coach and what the numbers tell you. So I do think we have some versatility defensively with the athleticism that we have on this team. But we're going to, you know, obviously I couldn't tell you that right now that, you know, I know what our starting lineup's going to be. I mean, that's why we play these inter squads and why we continue to evaluate and compete until we get to opening weekend.